Going live. Namaste, Galactic family. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Come on into this dimension. Come on into this deep occult cosmic grid intel update today. I am so excited to have you guys join me today because I couldn't be literally more excited. I have the most amazing Gene Decode on the show today, and many of you might know him from lots of other shows that he has done. He's pretty big on YouTube. I think that he's pretty deep in the occult wisdom, the occult esoteric research and knowledge community. And so his insight today is one that I couldn't be more excited about. I really revere and acknowledge the information that he puts out, and it's really extensive. And so I'm so excited to have you here, Gene. How are you doing today? I just wanna let everyone know how you've been, how you doing, how are you feeling today?
I was working late on helping one of the Blessed Service get information for a decode of sacred geometry. So I kind of went too late, and I went to bed at 3 a.m. So a little on the tired side, a little still waking up. I'm not a morning person. This is my morning. This is getting up time for me. So I'm getting up. I'm getting woke up. But yeah, I'll get better as we go.
Yeah, hey, no worries. It's the same for me as well. I am definitely a night owl. I'm usually up to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning myself, and usually sleep into about 10 or 11 most days. So I totally understand. I think it might be something with those of us who are downloading information, right? Like our brains actually get more activated during the night hours. And so we are more activated at that time. I don't know if you found that to be true, but I feel like in the last couple of years, my circadian rhythms are definitely changing.
For me, it's been my entire life. Even as an infant, I was a night person. I remember when I was 8 years old, my dad's second wife, we all went down to wherever the families had a group meeting in New Mexico at the time. And all of the kids decided to stay awake for New Year's Eve. Come New Year's Eve, the only one watching the ball rise up in New York, they have that big ball back in the day, and, celebration and all that, was me. Everybody else was asleep on the floor. I was like, I thought we're all going to stay up. I guess that means me, but I found it's always easier. Like going through high school, I would always study till about 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's quieter on the mental plane during that time because people go asleep and most people go into the astral realm. So they're completely gridlocked in the astral realm, but the mental plane is nice and quiet. So you can really think well, you can study, you can research, you can write up papers and all of that. So I have always found it to be the best. The primary problem I have, the starseed type I am, my home world is a 30-hour day in the summer and a 32-hour day in the winter. So I like to stay up 22 hours in the winter and sleep 10. And in the summer, I like to stay up 20 hours and still sleep 10. So, I like 10 hours of sleep, but I like to be awake a bit longer. Of course, that doesn't work well on Earth that has a pretty much year-round 24-hour day. It's like my time keeps moving. In the Navy, it worked great on submarines because you don't know what time it is unless you go into the control room and you can tell whether they're rigged for red or rigged for white. So then, when I got up a rank, all the people working for me never knew when I'd be awake because my time would constantly rotate through the shifts on the submarine for the watches, and I'd be awake and I'd be able to see all the different shifts, all the different watches, and they'd go, "You never know when G's going to come in." Who knows when he sleeps or when he's awake? And so, I would typically back then stay up for, at least 22 hours. Sometimes I do 40, 50, 60, 90-hour stints straight up. And then I'd crash for 2 hours sometimes, 12 hours sometimes, 16 hours sometimes. There was no way to tell. I just went with the natural rhythm of the area of the ocean I was in. I feel that rhythm always. And so the same thing when I do ley line work. My wife and I have gone all over the world and done ley line work and moved actually chakra of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where I put them. Until God erases my memory, I go, I don't even know where I put it. So if the cabal got me and tortured me, they go, he doesn't know. So yeah, I don't know. God took that information out of my head. So that shuts down Stargate's access to them because they use those for Stargate access. Most people know, for example, the one in Lake Titicaca, which is not there anymore. And Mount Fuji in Japan, not there anymore. And then the one in Bali, not there anymore. So we do this ley line work.
So what do you mean by not there anymore? Those stargates have been closed down?
Yeah, the chakra has been moved. Thus, the Stargate energy moves its location, and the Stargate focusing has to be done in a different way. When you focus the Stargate, it has several components. It has the main gate. The primary type is not what you see in Stargate, the series, although there are those types, like in the one in Antarctica. I actually have a picture of that one under the ice in Antarctica. But the primary type is called a Meru, which is 2 pillars. And that's why quite frequently you'll see just one of the pillars. Usually it was 2 in what we call obelisk. An obelisk usually had 2 pillars. It's in the book of Daniel in the Bible, where they took 2 pillars and there was a fiery furnace that opened between them. That's the event horizon for a wormhole or an Einstein-Rosen bridge or a Stargate system. So when they would go in, the Stargates require human genetics to go through them and survive. Anything else goes through them, it would get incinerated. So in the book of Daniel, they had 2 men go through and they came back and they were fine. But then they gave a host, even angelic hosts went through and they were incinerated. And the Cabal tried to do it even with cryosuits where they'd be completely cooled and, fire protected, and they still got incinerated. Well, that doesn't work for some reason. Should work. Why doesn't it work? But it has to do with and that's why the Cabal for generations has been like Princess Diana, marrying a human being and having offspring with them, because they want to get these 64 genetic strand carriers that are the keys to the gates for the 64 gate systems.
Right. Question, have you heard about the I Ching holographic components that are tying into that 64 codon of the DNA genetic in terms of what is functioning energetically in the pyramid system network?
Well, the I Ching lays out the I Ching, or the I Ching, however you want to say it. I always thought it was E, but maybe it's I. So I'll look that up. But I Ching, I studied that. Was actually when I learned to read. The first book I ever learned to read is the Book of Changes. That was the first book I studied.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have that book too.
Mm-hmm. So when I learned to read in elementary school, that was my first book report, was the I Ching. Because the teacher said, pick any book you want. I go, I want something about the meaning of everything. Well, she was Buddhist. She was Japanese. She said that would be for me the I Ching. I go, okay. And so I studied it for many years. And if you read the works of Nassim Haramein, he goes into that. He actually deciphered it. I'm sure people knew before him, but it was hidden. And so what the I Ching is to make a star tetrahedron, for example, from stir sticks. You would need to break them to be able to glue the sticks together to make a star tetrahedron. So you have to have a series of broken sticks and a series of open sticks. So to make a star tetrahedron, because you can't have a stick passing through it, you'd have to glue it to the surface. So the opposite sides of the I Ching, the wheel, are the stick combinations you need to make a total of the 64 star tetrahedrons. There's 32, it makes 32 pairs, but you just double it. So you get then the star tetrahedron, and the star tetrahedron embeds into itself. That's also the pattern in which they embed to make what's called the 64 tetrahedral metric. And Nassim goes into that. That is a stellated cubooctahedron. A cubooctahedron is the only solid shape, like Platonic solids, Archimedean solids. You have these different solids. It's the only one that's in balance. So if you look at the edges of any kind of geometric shape, that the edges would be representing vectors of force. And then the vertices would be vectors of force from the center of the object to the vertice. For any other shape, they're either implosive or explosive. The cubooctahedron, excuse me, is exactly in balance. It's what we call, why it's also called the vectrum equilibrium in Greek or Latin. So it means that it's in perfect equilibrium, because the external pressures of the edges and the internal pressures of the vortices, which would be explosive, and then the implosive force of the edges are in perfect balance in the cubooctahedron. Then when you stellate it, where from the vertices you create points like a star, you have the 64 tetrahedral metric. And then if we surround all of the tetrahedral stars with spheres, and you look at first just the spheres and you project them two-dimensionally, you have the flower of life. Right. And if you then project into that the stars, you have the Sri Yantra. And what so what you're looking, and in Hinduism, that's the highest mandala. And they say it's the seat of creation. And that's exactly what it is. In 3D, if we layer that 4 layers high, you get to what the cosmology calls the egg carton universe. The egg carton universe is 8 layers of this octahedral matrix that is 4 layers deep, but it makes with the upside down flip over, it makes 8 layers total. So it's an octave of an octave is 7 plus 1 for the next doubling frequency. So as you look at that embed, if you take a star tetrahedron and you take off the points, you have an octahedron that's like a diamond shape. So what you're looking at is all the galaxies fall on those star tetrahedral, octahedral ley lines. Those are the ley lines of the universe. Just like the Earth has ley lines in the same configuration. So does the solar system, so do galaxies, so does the entire universe. So everything follows on that. So the stars themselves are powered by these ley lines that create Birkeland currents, which are rotating and counter-rotating currents of negative and positive electromagnetic plasma energy that go from star to star, that gives them the plasma energy we see burning. They tell you they're nuclear furnaces. They're not. They're plasma energy electromagnetic containment vessels that are glowing with plasma energy that's held in by an electromagnetic containment system. The Earth has ley lines because it has an inner sun that's powering the energy around it. So the Earth is actually what's called a double counter-rotating U4 toroid, like all systems in the universe are. They're spherical, which is everything. You have stars look fairly much spherical. There may be some slight distortion, planets, everything else. So what even a pinwheel galaxy is actually, as it gets old, the solar systems roll up, go all the way up to the top, to the poles and the bottom, and then go down through the middle, which is called the cone. And then they come back out on the accretion disk, which is called the rods. And so all of those rods interconnect. Those are the ley lines. And then all of the cones are the energy going in. So what you get is this energy rotating in a U4 toroid. It causes the torque at the singularity at the center of every system, whether it's an atom, a solar system, planet, a galaxy, and the entire universe, where it causes an ecliptic event where in this atom, it's the electron fields where they are. And those are in a 5 proportion. So if you look at the electron shells, the S shell, the P shell, the D, the F, the G, etc., those are in a 5 proportion. The amount of mass and energy is also in a 5 proportion of the electrons compared to the mass of the nucleus. Same in a solar system. Solar systems are designed as our atoms to have a certain amount to fulfill their shells. In a solar system, it's 12 planets. It's why you see planets, binary, trinary solar systems, they share a planet. So in our system, we have 11 planets. We share a planet with a system, planets with a system that has only 7, which is Nibiru. Helion and Argota come through along with its star Nemesis, which is a brown dwarf, and that comes through every 12,000.
So you still account for Nibiru being an active planet in our solar system.
It's being shared with our system because we're one, just like an atom. Like water is H2O. What's happening is the hydrogen and the oxygen are sharing electrons. In the case of a solar system, we're sharing planets. So we're sharing planets because we're -1. Their Nemesis is sharing Helion, Argota, and one other planet, and its sun, Nemesis, because it's short 5. And then there's a third system that is short 11, which is Clarion, which only has 1 planet, which is Maitreya. It's a huge rocky planet the size of Saturn. Bizarre planet because it's a rock planet that's the size of Saturn, and it comes through about every 500,000 years, and so it's a blue dwarf. And so we're like a trinary star system, and so the planets are shared within them to make a balance for the ley line energy. They come in on those spherical orbits, so that's the sphere, and then the ley lines are the stars interconnecting energy that's bringing the Berkeley current energies in for the stars.
Okay. Now, when you say Berkeley current, are these, so something that I have studied is different templates of light matrices that integrate into the Earth's body. And each one of these different light matrices are essentially holding different timelines. They're holding different realities. They're holding different spin fields in terms of the electrons and the electromagnetic field and the magnetic field. And some of them even tune into different pole shift tilts. Some of the Lemurian light matrices. So would these Berkeley currents be similar to these just different geometrical type templates that are running manifestation fields upon them?
So if you just put in Birkeland, BIRKELNLAND current into any search engine, they'll give you tons of pictures. So you can see like Birkeland current explanation in Wikipedia. You can see Birkeland currents in Smoke the Universe is electromagnetic. There's a YouTube on that. And they're the energy that, of course, like you said, the ley lines. Now, if you're talking timelines, you're interconnecting the multiverse itself.
Yes.
Through
and I just wanted to give you a little background about me too. So I've done a lot of extensive research on the mechanics of stargates. And also different templates of light matrices that would uphold what's expanding or what's being created from the energy of the stargates. What I have found is that each stargate is uniquely different, that there's a lot of differentiation between them, that they're not all powered by the same energies, that they're all running different geometries. It's interesting that you just referenced the Ogdo and the octagonal type geometries, because I really found that to be ultra significant in the Giza Stargate system, the fourth planetary Stargate system in Giza. I find that each one of the Stargates are running different geometries. So I have found studying Stargate mechanics to be literally one of the most amazing and expansive things that I've kind of stumbled across and upon. And because of that research, I've actually visited a lot of different Stargates. One of the most recent ones that I think was most profound for me was visiting Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu was so immense. It was so amazing. It seemed like they were funneling a lot of celestial information and technology from the Palladian system, the Sirian systems, also the Crooks constellation, that each one of these stargates seem to be like interlinked or connected to specific celestial bodies or radial intelligence forms that are anchoring the information into the gate system. So yeah, I'm really on board with everything that you're saying. It's activating me. I feel super activated by this.
That's fascinating. The Stargate systems of the 64, it's like a subway, if you will, of systems that interconnect the universe so that you can get to all the different gate systems that go to all the galaxies, all the different planetary systems. We're on the off-ramp for Peshmetin in the area we're in, which is the 9th gate system for the universe. And you look at the Giza system, and then, of course, the Chegi mountain system, and the Machu Picchu system. The Machu Picchu system is on one of the primary lines for Earth. It's where the mid-Pacific ridge actually comes up on the continent. So what happens when you're climbing Machu Picchu mountain, behind the Machu Picchu, the town, up above it, you can look across the rift. It's pretty obvious. It goes very steep down and just very short across the valley, and very what they call the Sacred Valley in Peru, and back up again. And that brings in a very powerful current system, which all the gate systems use those powerful current systems. So they interconnect throughout. That's the hub for Peshmetin, that one there at Machu Picchu, which is tying to, the one.
I found that one to be very hyper magnetic. And it seemed like they were running a lot of metallic energy. Even when I went there and I was like psychically remote viewing the gate system, I seen metallic type transformations of geometries that were flowing within the mountains. And it was really profound. How, yeah.
Now, they built the city where they did because it's between two peaks. So you have one on one side, one on the other side, and you come up in between. And so you can climb either mountain, but that's essentially a natural formation of a Meru, of two pillars or two obelisks with a platform in between. And that's your gate system right there. And then they had the metallic substances, like in Teotihuacan, for example, they used liquid red mercury. Of course, mercury is usually liquid at room temperature. So they have red mercury, which is what they use in the secret space programs to create a vortice, like Victor Schauberger did, to create anti-gravitic fields. And it can also open up a gate system.
Okay. Well, what I really wanted to pick your brain about today, and I'm so excited to actually go into this because I feel like you're going to bring forward so much more extensive information about this, was to really kind of go into the grid systems, the Stargate systems that are running in Washington, D.C., because as many know that I'm preparing to go on a big grid worker mission to Washington, D.C. for the summer solstice and do a restoration and rehabilitation mission and extraction of the negative and nefarious and negative alien ET agendas that are going on there. So basically going in and kind of hosting and holding ritual to extract that negative energy, which I consider Washington, D.C. to be a fifth dimensional reversible Stargate location, as well as the Vatican, as well as London, which we were just kind of talking about before we came into the live stream today. So any intel that you have on Washington, D.C., I actually have my map pulled up today, and I'll go ahead and actually screen share that and just kind of get your input on all of this, because I feel like obviously you're such a encyclopedia of information. Anything that you can give us in terms of Washington, D.C., and also the Masonic templeting that's running here, and maybe even your opinion on Freemasonry, because it does seem to be a very controversial thing. Even within the YouTube community, I find information clashing amongst varying amounts of people, in which what is good and what is not. And so maybe if you could give us maybe some of your insight on just Freemasonry kind of starting out, as I know that Washington, D.C. itself was kind of built upon the back of Freemasonic templating due to I think George Washington being a Freemason and kind of building the city according to that. So what is your intake on that information?
So yeah, before we could progress on the Stargates, people, I would reference everybody to the work of William Henry on Stargates. So the Freemasonry stuff, I would reference people first to start with Manly P. Hall, The Secret of All Ages, and he has several other books. We have those available on our Blessed for Service website. That is a free site that people, just lots and lots of information. You go pull up information there. I don't know if we have Henry, but that's really easy to find. Just any search engine, you can go in, and it goes into the Stargate of Atlantis and Egypt and Giza Plateau and all of that. So if you look at the map you have up, of course, you see the pentagram, the upside, and then of course that also is creates a linkage to the Capitol Hill area, which you can see you also have outlined in kind of pink and blue, the owl, Rose Gardens. And then that connects to, if you go from Hill East to Capitol Hill, you can see the roads lay out in a all-seeing eye, but in a masculine form, where you have a diamond structure on its side. Like I said, the octahedron. So you can see from Hill East, the words Hill East, there's a point, and you can see another star there, and you can see that it makes the roads go straight up and then straight down, up to Station Park or Stanton Park, and then straight down through the owl, and across. And then from Hill East, they go down straight under the word Capitol Hill and come up into that. And what you make is a all-seeing eye that is laid out with overlapping Vesicae Pisces. And so that is what creates, to center on the obelisk that is represented in Egyptian, the Oval Office represents the ovum. So to get life for humanity, you have to have two sexes. Big surprise, they think it's 17 or something plus now, like Tucker Carlson says, what's plus? I want to interview plus. Who's plus? Who's plus? What sex is plus?
Real quickly, what's your take on Tucker Carlson? Didn't he just announce that he's going to be parting ways with the Fox?
They laid him off or gave him time off. His contract's still active, but they don't want him on the news cycle during the elections. So everything now is, from now until the elections are done, is about gearing up the narrative, because they want to run Biden again, which is about the worst possible choice for the American people, because he's not even able to get his way off the stage without a guide. Grab him by the elbow, this way. No, not that way. No. Okay, here, and when he comes on, the podium's in this. No, not the flags. The podium is open. The audience is out there. See, people, it's like the guy's lost. This is, he's obviously just a talking head, but they need to run him, because if they ran Kennedy, he is part of the alliance. So you would have Trump and Kennedy, both of which the neocon globalist satanic group do not want at all. They could run DeSantis, but because he's tied to the Crown Corporation, which is tied to London, which is tied to the old ways of things. And so, however, they want to, for some unbeknownst bizarre reason, I don't know what it is, makes no sense to me, but they want him in there. And of course, the Hunter laptop is now, the 50 people that swore it didn't exist, that was a total fraud. That's been revealed. And that's part of why they want Tucker out, because he is reporting the news for real. Now for our next story, what we're going to make up and tell you and make you believe to be the truth. It's not the truth. So he went into January 6th. He went into the Hunter laptop. He went into what's going on in Ukraine for real. He's telling the truth. Well, that's the last thing you want out there for them if you're going to do what they're doing, which is like the head of the FBI, or rather the CIA, had said once they in backing up Operation Mockingbird, once they get the American people to the point where everything they know is a lie, they have total control, because nothing you can know is based on anything. So people can't do what you're doing. They can't go to DC and clean up ley lines.
Right.
So if you look at the owl in the Oval Office, that's to create an energy, and you have that moat going down to the obelisk, which is the masculine, or the phallic. So you're creating life and the balance between life and birth and death, and going down the river Styx into the afterlife, and then to the male, which then recreates the birth channel, the water, all of that.
So can I show you something really quick? And I'd like to get your opinion on it. This was something
now,
that
read that, I do want to, it's nice that you noted this out in pink and blue. It makes it really easy to see.
Yeah.
But most people do not see that it's not only an owl. It's an angel, a fallen angel, an angel fallen onto its side below the pentagram. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yep. So what you see is the wings that you have in pink and blue, and then the ears of the owl are the eyes, and then the mouth, and then you have the body structure going down to the obelisk, which is the bottom of the body. So you have a fallen angelic below the pentagram, which represents Lucifer. So it's representing, most people have never noticed this, it's representing a fallen angelic. And there's also what they call a Tau cross in the street layout. And a Tau cross is a satanic cross.
Well, and then it's also supposed to be representing the Masonic compass, correct?
Mm-hmm. And
what does that mean? Because I am not too familiar in what the Masonic compass means.
It's going into squaring the pyramid. And getting the square of the pyramid, and then circling the square, was what is the Masonic highest of highs from their understanding.
So within the center of the owl.
Mm-hmm. And then you're supposed to bring that out to the next iteration or octave to go around the outside of the square. So the way you've laid it out is really beautiful, because what you've done is you've created for the compass both edges, and they call that the chevron, or the square within the square, or plans within plans, secrets within secrets. So it's like in Dune, they call secrets within secrets, or plans are squaring the square and then circling the square, and all of this. This is all Masonic high stuff. Yeah, Manly P. Hall goes into that. And so what you have is a pyramid layout, plus a sphere around the pyramid, plus a square and a square, and then you would have another sphere around the outer edge of that again. So it's a squaring and circling. Paris does the same thing. When you look at Paris with the Eiffel Tower, it's doing the exact same thing. And Paris itself was built on the dead bones in all the catacombs from the Black Plague. And then the Notre Dame that burned down, that was on the Temple of Isis. And Paris means par Isis, or for Isis, which is Lucifer's sister and his wife. Lucifer, Enlil, and Enki are the two sort of demigods, or total fake gods, that the Luciferians play as the real gods. And of course, they have to generate life. So in ancient Egypt, Isis reanimated her husband because his phallic had been cut off. That's why you see it being separated, and the phallic is separated from the body. And that's why you see, like, they have a Vesicae Pisces on their hand, and they'll have the Pisces symbol, and they'll have numbers on it. That's showing the resurrection of the husband, or Lucifer, or Ra, and Horus, and all this play, but Horus and Ra, Isis, and all of this in the Egyptian mythology during the time of the ram, which is why they use the ram, because each religion comes up at a certain time. And
Yeah,
there,
and that's why I just kind of zoomed into the Vesica Pisces over the Washington Monument, as I feel like that's kind of ritualistic magic that's being done here in terms of sexualizing the grids.
yeah, and what
I
they're actually showing you there, you've done this really well. You can see the ovals within the sphere, and that represents the ovum. It's already created life, and you've got the zygote going up the river Styx to go into the oval office, into the ovum to rebirth or resurrect the fallen one. In Satanism, of course, that's Horus or Ra, or depending on which way you go, because the Father and the Son are cross-mutated there. In Christianity, of course, that's Jesus Christ and the resurrection of Christ, but it's not on a tau cross, it's on a perfect cross. Like it within our bodies, we have a perfect three-dimensional cross, which is where the pineal lies. Between the tops of your ears, your glabella, which is right between your eyebrows, and the first vertebrae coming out under your skull, creates a three-dimensional cross. That's where your pineal lies. That's why when they were giving the PCR test, they take a Q-tip so long, all you need is to get fluid from the body. So somebody could spit on the Q-tip, you got what you need. You don't need to put it way up the nose. What they're doing is they're going all the way up to what's called the cribriform plate, that is like a radiator grate. It has holes in it, and it's right beneath the pineal. And often they've actually broken that and caused brain injury. But what they're doing is the PCR test has the graphene and all the other stuff right on it. So they're putting it through that plate. They're rubbing it on the plate. That's why they sometimes break it. As older people, the bones get more fragile. But or a young child, it's still somewhat malleable, so it can be pushed and broken easier. So
one thing I've heard in terms of the Capitol is that I think when Eisenhower was in his presidency, that they had made contracts with the Greys in terms of something called Yellow Book technology, which was technology that could look into the future, and that these lines or these I guess the Masonic compass, that they're barriers in terms of protecting this Yellow Book technology. This is why I actually put this like yellow square here, was to kind of represent this Yellow Book technology, which is where they have the ability to look into the future or look into the past. It's kind of like time traveling technology. Have you ever heard about?
Obviously psychic as heck, because beneath the Capitol, right where your yellow square is a bunker. Underneath, down in the ground, hundreds of feet down, a hardened bunker. They show it in Salt, where they get the president down in there, and then she comes in, and the Russian guy comes in to kill the president, and she saves the president and all this stuff. That's a case hardened bunker, and they had a yellow cube beneath that in a viewing room below that where they could look at the future. Eisenhower got that for the military industrial complex by signing the treaty with the Greys and the Draco at Holloman Air Force Base. He got kind of tricked. He didn't really know what he was doing at the time, because if he had signed the other treaty with the Blues, which is little blue people, we would have had to surrender our nuclear weapons. And so would the Soviet.
Now, do the Blues have any affiliation to the Blue Avians, or are they just like a different?
Blue Avians do not exist.
Okay.
That's made up. That
Okay.
part's made up. That's
it's like a Corey Good thing.
That's a Corey Good thing. That's part of.
Okay.
He's now come out that he has made up certain things. That one's made up. The Golden Triangle guys do exist. I actually have had some visit me, but the Blue Avian guys, that part's not real. But the Blues I'm talking about, they have very, very round faces, and then they're kind of almost like a cartoon of round body, and they're very, very blue. They're not avians, and they're about 2.5 to 3, no more than 2.5 at the very top. A tall one would be 3 feet tall, and they're very, very gentle, but extremely high technology. They're part of the group that was, during 1990, the cabal wanted to nuke the world, and they know on the timelines they were going to do it. So what they did is the Blues have a technology to transmute material. They transmuted all of the nuclear warheads on Earth from plutonium and uranium into gold. Because, okay, you guys love gold so much. There you go. Lots of gold. So in 90s, it's how I found out about the DOMs is I followed 2 ICBMs off of an SSBN in Pearl Harbor on Fort Island into a dump. I didn't go in the dump, but I watched the flatbed truck with the nuclear warhead missiles, the ICBMs, go into it.
Now I just want to mention with the blues, because I'm kind of going back to that because it's kind of something that's been on my research radar. I've been kind of tying the blue energy, whether they're blue, clearly not blue avians, but blues, that they might go back to the blue-skinned people, that there was actual blue-skinned people of the Tuaregs in North Africa. And then also, if you look at Shiva, he was a blue-skinned being, that these were like some of the first original blue flame holders, essentially, in terms of our ancient ancestors. Do you tie any connections into this in any way?
Well, you've got many different blue species. These blues aren't those blues. Shiva and that blue group are a different blue group that were working with the Mon Empire to get their technology to where it was. And then the human race actually had originally 7 different colors of beings in it. And one of them was blue. One was green too. So blue and green and things like that means there's more different elements in the blood that were causing it. Instead of being red and blue, oxygenated state red, non-oxygenated state blue, it's because we're iron based. But if you go to a copper based, your blood is green, and then your skin tends to be green, and there's other elements that make it blue. So humans actually, in the Thailand area and all of that, if you go to the Imperial Palace in Thailand, you'll see murals on the wall, and they did this on deep dives. The US team does a gene Decode Unscripted, where they just ask me questions out of the blue. Interesting. That was an interesting slip. And I went into these different race groups or ethnic groups that compose the human. They wiped out all of the blue humans on Earth. So humans did actually have originally, like we have black people, red people, yellow people. We don't have blue people and green people anymore. They wiped those out during the Deva battle wars, which they show in the pyramid of, or not the pyramid, excuse me, the Imperial Palace in Thailand.
Okay.
And then looking at your diagram, you can see some of the tunnel network laid out on it goes right to the docks for the Clinton Corporation that they have. They went into that, they're taking children out of some of the underground facilities that go from the White House and Congress and Senate and the Capitol building, and all of that are interconnected to tunnel systems that they were trafficking children.
I want to ask you a quick question. So this was something that we kind of scouted out when we were doing a deep dive. And it was like looking at the White House and Washington, D.C., and that these were actually components of the bee's body. You can see like there's a queen's body down here. And that this radiation here, or this like landscape here, was actually like a hive or an AI network that was, implementing artificial intelligence, but that this symbolism or this metaphor of this bee was the symbolization of the split between nature and nurture and humanity's connection to it. And that this may be something that may need to be corrected in terms of the landmass and the holographic architecture that's running here.
Yes.
Have you heard of anything like this before?
Yeah, so the bee is used by the Masons to represent the pineal gland, the beehive. And the bee herself, the queen bee, represents the queen of the AI, which used to be Sophia. Is not an in-law now because Sophia was removed. But the AI, of course, is at the top, the head of all of this cabal stuff. At the very, very top of the entire multiverse, she was the one that was, and now for this universe, it's Nana Inwell, is running that for the entire universe that we're in. And so that's the top of the AI, yes. And that would be a area where they would have black goo embedded in there. So definitely want to have certain things with you to keep yourself, if you're going to be pulling on that energy or messing with that.
What do you think in terms of protection we would need?
I would always do, before you do work and after you do work, on my Bless for Service website and on my Rumble, we have the invocation on Real Gene Decode Rumble. Do the invocation, that's a prayer for protection. And then also do clockwise rotating work when you do. Don't do counterclockwise.
Yeah.
And also be focused on the soul plane and not in the astral or remote viewing in the astral or anything below the soul plane. Get yourself into the soul plane before you do your work and focus your awareness in the soul plane. So the way you do that is listen to some very clean, high-level 432 hertz classical music, something like Ode to Joy and Beethoven, or other things that call to you that are very high, spiritually high music, to get yourself focused and in that. And then you would also want to cleanse yourself with sacred oil and holy water. So oil that's
I was even thinking of taking it so far as to literally stringing myself a bead of garlic necklace. Like, I know that sounds so crazy, but I have to tell you, Jean, so I just came back from a trip to the Vatican over the winter solstice, and I went in there and did kind of like a guardian rescue mission there as well. And I set a lot of protections. I did everything that I knew how to technically do, and I still actually feel like I kind of got hit with a bioweapon, at least on my lower chakras 1 through 3. And I was definitely I was definitely targeted. But
yeah, they don't.
It's not to say that I didn't overcome that, because I did, but it was definitely it opened my eyes to how powerful the reversal gate systems are, that it's such a strong magnetic pull into the reversal energy that it really amplifies all of the shadow. It really amplifies everything that is hiding and that is living, that is hiding in the darkness. And so you have to be very aware of like shadow work. You have to be very aware of what's going on in the shadow, because these systems are meant to essentially amplify that in your consciousness, whether it's personal or collective or shared between those that are with you. But it's definitely something that really comes up.
Yeah. So we have a property protection protocol, and there's a personal protection protocol you can do. Garlic will help you from vampires and werewolves. But
yeah,
for the energy, I would suggest, mala, both on the wrists, both wrists, and around your neck as a pendant. And you can create your own sacred pendant with various stones that resonate with you, and then also bless them and pray over them and cleanse them, just like you're going to do yourself before the work. You do holy water, holy oil, sun gazing, ground yourself on the earth with bare feet, and then do clockwise rotation like you see the whirling dervishes, but go clockwise, not counterclockwise, with your left hand up and your right hand down to bring the energies through you. After doing the sun gazing, there's a lot of people that have protocols on how to do that. And then look at the work of Ashiana Dean. She goes, Carrie Cassidy mentioned that she did an interview with her on her site on Project Camelot. She mentioned her yesterday in my interview with her on Patriot Underground, and I didn't get time to recognize it. And she has a 3-part interview, and her Ashiana Dean's information is extremely accurate. So over 95% accurate. And so if you look at her stuff,
and you're a studier and a follower of Ashiana Dean's work. Have you studied Keylontic science?
I've gone through all the materials, yes. So there's only a few slight things that I find off, like dark energy doesn't really exist. dark matter doesn't exist. It's gravity going back into the singularity. It's the light of God comes out as the Holy Spirit, the light of the Holy Spirit from the Word of God out of the singularity, which is there's one singularity. It's the center of every person, planet, star, galaxy, atom, etc. It's why we have quantum entanglement. Nassim Haramein goes into that in his website. But on Ashiana Dean, she goes into what is called the Antichrist lockup, where they took the U4 toroid, which is supposed to have the top half going clockwise, and they made it go counterclockwise and gridlock what is called the Antichrist lockup. And it gridlocks the system, and it causes it to become a death spiral. The same thing they did with the tree of life. What they show in the Kabbalah with the tree of life is the tree of death. It does not have the top and the bottom the same. It's missing the feminine part on top, is missing the heart chakra. In other words, the compassion and healing and gift of life by women to the earth has been removed. That's the AI. Because what is in place is the black goo, or the AI, which is from their home worlds that fell to earth in meteors. I was going to mention that. Terry Cassidy mentioned it. We ran out of time on Patriot Underground yesterday. That black goo, when they did the Antichrist lockup, or the Metatronic, the Eye of Metatron technology, they tore their home worlds apart. They didn't have it correctly frequency matched. And so it ripped their planets apart. Their home worlds, where they came to Earth and landed in Ukraine, in Bakhmut and Pontic Steppes in the Caucasus Mountains of Ukraine. They came from two worlds, which were called Ariana and Na, which got down through the time frame to being called the Aryans and the Nazis. Since you're on YouTube, I can't say it out loud. So the group of the Third Reich during World War II, and now there's a Fourth Reich and a Fifth Reich in their secret space dark fleet programs. And so those groups came from a constellation or a star system, which the central sun of that system was called Zion, S-C-I-O-N, like the car. They turned it into Zion, or Zionism, which is nothing but Satanism. Zion is another word, another name that Lucifer's had 72 names. That's why the pyramid on the dollar bill has 72 bricks on it, because it's one for each of his 72 avatars, such as Ra, or Doer, or Horus, or Lucifer, or Satan, or Saint Nicholas, like, Kris Kringle, that kind of guy. A guy in a red suit that comes down a fireplace in the fire. Okay, yeah, I think we know what you're talking about here. So this is
one thing that I've studied real quick. I'll just interject, because you're so full of information. It's like, wow, where do I go? One thing I've noticed with the AI is that there are, because we're talking about black goo.
Yes.
I've noticed that they like to tap into the silicate matrix. So it seems as if they are utilizing areas in the grid function where they're holding high components of silicate matrix, one being the Google and Apple location in California, also in Shanghai and China. It seems like there's actually particular ley lines that connect these AI points together, where they're hosting higher levels of 6G infiltration. And they're also using black wave spirals and red wave AI spirals within those silicate matrix components areas to amplify the AI infiltration. Do you have any information on that at all?
So Ashiana goes into those grid systems. In the US, on the American continent, it's in the shape of an eagle. In China, it's in the shape of a dragon. In England, it's the shape of a lion. In China, it's a dragon. And so in Russia, it's a bear. So these go into the ancient underground, huge caverns. In ancient Lemuria, they're called the Kaililanta, or the Kalilanta. In Hinduism, they got down to Kali, but it's not actually Kali, it's Kaililanta. And Ashiana Dean goes into these huge underground networks of crystalline structures. They found one in Mexico where you have these crystals that are 60, 70, 90 feet long. And these
Chihuahua, Mexico. Chihuahua?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so these are actual structures that are underground that they've messed with to harness, like you said, But what they are originally to do is to help create the stargates, anchor them along with the grid system to give free energy for all the stargates, to give free energy to the entire earth, and have the person that goes into the chamber of the king, which is not what it was originally called. It's not a place for sarcophagus either. That was brought in by the Satanists. But it was an area to have a what they call a mercy seat, or like in the Ark of the Covenant. You bring in an ark and you'd sit in the mercy seat, and you could have telepathic communication with anybody anywhere else on earth that's in another pyramid in the mercy seat. So it was worldwide telepathic communication, free energy, all connecting to these massive power crystals, because in any computer system or any power generation system, the main way to generate power, one free energy way, is the piezoelectric, where it taps into the singularities and then it pulls these free energy up from the fourth dimension, because you actually have 6 directions. You have up and down, right and left, forward and back, and you have in. And in it goes to the singularity, and that's the gravity wave going back in. That's the binding force that binds and overcomes the Coulomb force, the explosive force in the nucleus of the atom. So it's a very powerful force that you're harnessing. That then comes through the crystalline structure. If you torque a crystal on the ley lines of the crystal, or the lattice lines, the layers of the crystal, if I create a mechanical pressure, the old stereos used to do this, and also a old record player does this. If you put a pressure on a crystal at the opposite end, you get an electrical frequency, the exact same frequency of the pressure at the other end. It's the piezoelectric effect. It's a way to get free energy. You could literally just put a copper mesh down, pour little diamonds on top of it, have one end of the mesh twisted into the ground, so it's grounded, the other end with an antenna going up into the sky, and all the crystals would orient into the grid frequency lines of the Schumann frequency on Earth correctly, and then have it in a mold and pour rubber. And now you can put those in the building floor and pour the concrete, interconnect them, and hook them up to capacitor banks with RC networks, and you've got electricity forever for that building, because the Earth is constantly vibrating with the Schumann frequency, let alone all the cars and vehicles going by. You would have massive electrical power. And so the piezoelectric effect, these huge crystal structures are doing the same thing. They're harnessing the Earth's energy, and they were supposed to anchor all of the energy systems for each area. So the different ones, there's the eagle, there's the bear, there's the lion, there's the dragon, that Ashiana Dean goes into. I can't remember the term she calls them.
Yeah. The Atlantean pylon network systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She uses
I'm pretty familiar with the work. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've also found that it ties in not just to the radial electromagnetic fields of particular reality matrices that are running, but it also ties into, I correlated it at one point to the national animals, because even the national animals, like if you look at globally, the eagle and which systems that are running, the lion, which systems that are running, the dragon, they all correlate. Like dragon itself goes to Wales, it goes to China, it goes to Indonesia, and kind of still correlates the information, which I found was really interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, she uses another term. It's not something else, but if you look, she has the tree of life. She has what looks kind of like a teardrop if you were to lay that down on its side. And what that is a differential equation for those crystals to be harnessed. So you can see she has numbers and frequencies coming out of that. So you have the holistic part of it and the differential, holistic part and non-holistic part of the differential equation on the top and the bottom. And so it splits so that you have both sides of the differential equation on that, but she calls it something else. I can't remember the term she uses, but she goes into that in her various series that she has. I can't remember what the heck she calls it.
It's really interesting. So a real quick question about you. What all have you studied? So you've studied obviously a lot of Ashiana Dean's work, but what else have you studied that's kind of brought you up to this level of massive global interdimensional, multidimensional information.
Wow, it'd be hard to go into all of them. Some of them, the works of course, Ashanadine, Manly P. Hall, the I Ching, William Henry, Nassim Harriman, David Icke, Carrie Cassidy. Whew, man, there's so many. I can't even.
There's so many. It's amazing.
I can't remember them all anymore.
Yeah, your information recall is like impressive. It's super impressive.
Yeah, there's so many, really excellent people to study from out there. I've got a massive list of stuff. It depends on what area you're going into and what specific things you're looking at as far as.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
So you said that you're married. How do you tie in the research world into the personal interrelation world with your marriage? Does your wife also study this stuff with you, or how do you guys find common ground and communication with the spiritual world, the information world, and also the personal world?
Well, we've been connected for pretty much ever. We've known each other an extremely long time, many times we've been together. So in that, in this lifetime, she came to study and learn martial arts from me. And then we got, I immediately remembered her as soon as she showed up the first time. I remember you from when I was a samurai in Japan under Miyamoto Musashi. She was a person I knew then. So the memories go back, but she totally is aware of everything I'm aware of for a very, very long time. So it's very, very easy for us. And she's extremely intelligent, gifted, and talented as well, and knowledgeable and researched. When she's been doing meditation and working with crystals all her life. She's always done that. During the time I was a Tuscalero Apache, she was a rock woman, a medicine woman using rocks, and I was an herbalist for the Tuscalero Apache 550 years ago. So if you look at the interconnection, we've had that for so long and our memories are so profound that we can actually, like on a backpack with her, the second backpack I ever did with her up into the Waimanute Wilderness area, which is the largest wilderness area in the United States. There's an area where I told her, it's a 3-day, 2 days in, and then 3 days after that off trail, we got into this valley. And she said, so where are we going today? I go, no, we're not going anywhere except we're not breaking camp and moving. You have an assignment today. Find something we left a long time ago. And so she actually was able to remember precisely where it was. She walked up the side of a valley floor that was at about a 45-degree slant with 9-foot high grass, and then around a huge lake and up on the ridge above it. And there was the medicine wheel that she built 550 years ago from big granite boulders that were now just the very surface of the boulder were showing due to all the sedimentation. And then I took her up above that and showed the one I built after she had died in that lifetime during childbirth. I built one to the child and to her to bring the energies to another time frame. And so we've always had that connection. She's done this quite a few times where I said, do you remember this? What was here? And she'll go and find it. We went to Turkey and Ephesus, and, we're on this tour of Ephesus, and somebody, the guide said that there was a secret tunnel that they know goes from the library to the bordello, because politicians never change, right? But they haven't been able to find it. And a whole bunch of the ladies in the group knew my memory. And they go, do you remember where it is? Yeah, of course I remember where it is. I was high up in politics at that time. They go, could you show us when the tour's done? So I took them back to the library, and there's a big rock. And I said, it's where the scrolls for the government, all the law scrolls and all that for the government were, which is right here. And I rolled this big, huge stone aside, and there was a tunnel. And they go, "You do have a good memory." I go, "Reasonably, yes." It was pretty easy to remember. I mean, I am actually studying law all night. They're actually all the senators are going through there constantly back and forth. It's like hard to study, so it makes a memory on you. So, that connection in our personal life, that's why we can go do the grid work like we did at Machu Picchu, and we did in Bali, and we did in Japan, and we've done quite a few places all over the world, in Bosnia, and the big pyramid in Bosnia, and all of those stuff.
Well, I would love to invite you to Washington, D.C. with me. I mean, if you would like to join our team, we're gonna be there for the summer solstice. So yeah, but I do feel like there's a level of discretion. I do feel like we have to be somewhat, just not flamboyant about what we're doing. Just kind of be inconspicuous, as Washington, D.C. is definitely, I feel like it's worse than the Vatican. I'll be honest with you. The Vatican was like nothing. It was like a breeze. I honestly feel like DC is even worse. And I want to say that I feel like it might even be at a higher dimensional field. I used to think that DC was a 5D reversal gate, but now I think it's actually more like an 8 or a 9D reversal gate. Like there's so much more, I think, that's actually going on there in terms of security, Satanism, Luciferianism, secret occultic deals. Like it's such a crazy hub that's so infiltrated. And what I think makes it worse is that there's been so much reconstructing of the natural and organic resources. There was actually natural river systems that used to flow up underneath DC. And I think back in the 50s or the 60s, they actually reverted all of them to make them sewer systems. And they've just done so much to tamper the organic and natural ley line resources there that it's all infiltrated by AI, and it's actually being surveillanced underground. And so this is what makes it so tampered, or makes it so, devastational to, people residing there, and the information that's coming from that place, that it's hosted up on entirely an entire black matrix system. It's not even barely tapped into anything natural, organic in terms of resources. And I think that's the main thing that my goal is to do there, is to kind of spiritually or energetically tune those natural systems back in on some level. And I feel like even the work we do there, we're just literally taking like a little teaspoon off of the mountain of shit that's there. I mean, but every little thing I think does count ultimately, energetically, of course.
Yeah, thanks for the offer. I'll leave it open for the younger ones like you to do that now. I'm long in the tooth. My time is to sit and give out information. So, I can give you the protection techniques and how to ground yourself, and, get the elements all in within you, and all of that energy set up, and all of the things you need to do for that. You're right. DC is probably one of the worst pits on Earth.
Yeah, it's
all
bad.
the original river systems, and made them into sewer systems, and made them into tunnels for child trafficking. When they went to clear the tunnels out in the Alliance, they were just throwing the bodies around, rats running through the bodies, cockroaches. I mean, even in complete anti-seize, completely covered, even if they had a speck of skin showing, it would make them nauseous, because the pores of your skin breathe, and the smell was so bad it just make you nauseous. And so they flooded it several times with Potomac to try to clean it out. That's why 107 said the place should just be torn down and turned back into what it originally was, which is a wetland for birds. It's about the only thing worthwhile to do with it. I totally agree. Just terrible.
What I've most recently researched is that Hawaii. So I've gone into some articles talking about how the most severe human trafficking cases that have ever been brought forth have came from the connections of Hawaii and Washington, D.C., where they brought in about 400 victims from Thailand, basically to be slave traded and trafficked into Hawaiian farms and Washington, D.C. farms, and that this was the largest U.S. case ever filed that nobody even knows about. It's like literally swept up underneath the rug. But that, human trafficking, sex trafficking is the new age world slavery system, that it's actually like really a detrimental pandemic to humankind in terms of what we're dealing with now in the new age. And it's just really sad. It's really sad to go into the information of all of this and how detrimental it is, and how much I've been connecting Hawaii into DC. In terms of that, Hawaii might be the true healing potential, the true healing power, that if we could connect these ley line systems and extract the artificial systems, that if we can connect Hawaii into Washington, D.C., that there may be potential to restore the natural and organic systems. Again, because Hawaii holding the power of the Pacific, the volcanic vortexes, and the multidimensional healing vortex system that it's holding there. That might be a key factor into restoring the gate systems there in terms of the reversal energy.
Yeah, Hawaii, if you work with Pele and the Big Island, and that energy there is a powerful tool that could be used. That has a lot of, and those have a grid system as well as an underground tunnel system that goes all the way across the Atlantic to DC. And so, yeah, I would say DC is the second worst on Earth. Bakhmut is the worst. That's the human trafficking hub of the entire Eurasian, Asian, Europe continent, and it's all connected. Everything is connected to Bakhmut. It's where they originally first landed on Earth, the Scion, yes, the Aristana.
Wait, what location is it? You said Bakhmut?
Bakhmut in Ukraine.
Ukraine?
That's why Ukraine
Okay.
is so pivotal. And Bakhmut is the hub of it all, and why they're fighting so hard not to lose it. They literally can't enclose it like in a cauldron because they have so many huge tunnels going to Chasiv Yar that it would be useless to enclose it on the surface, because there's all of this hubs going out to Lviv and all over Europe and the Middle East from Bakhmut, all the labs, the biolabs, and all of that human trafficking, child trafficking, chimera creation, and all the biolabs and all of this stuff is all centered in Bakhmut. It is their hub on Earth. It is their primary number one most evil place. It goes straight to Libya, to the Hall of Horrors that is under Libya, of all the massive chimera, of creating living chimeras from human beings, and in those many, many massive layered dome under Libya, that's the lower 1/3 of the dome of Africa. The whole southern tip of Africa, lower 1/3 is a dome, and it has generations, hundreds of generations of people. Credo Mutwa talked about it in his interview with David Icke, that they have taken children and people down there for hundreds of generations, to where they no longer have eyes, they no longer have melatonin in their skin. They're essentially like a cave creature with, they can't come into the light anymore. And they've been doing stuff down there for eons. The number of children and people that are down there are more than are on the surface of the Earth. When the Alliance finally gets to that mess, and then that connects directly to Israel. And that's where the queen of the AI is currently, and the queen of the Draco is. That's the half-breed, half gold, half white daughter of Enlil, Nana Enlil, resides on Earth in Israel. And then she rules over the entire thing and controls the AI. That the black goo and all of this is centered under Bakhmut.
Okay, question. The queen of the AI, is this in any way Anunnaki royalty genetics?
Anunnaki is nothing but, like Thoth was Anunnaki. He put up the part of the soul trap, which is the Thothsphere around the Earth. But the Anunnaki are nothing but a captured, enslaved race by this group that were originally from Sirius and in the belt of Orion. The reptilian group of the Alpha Draco and their others, the Shakar.
So is the queen of AI from Alpha Draco? Where's the queen of AI from?
Alpha Draco.
Alpha Draco, okay.
She's an Alpha Draco.
Okay. interesting because I've studied a lot of intergalactic passage routes that are leading to at least the Temple Mount. I used to see the Temple Mount as like the AI Anunnaki port, that there's like spheres of interdimensional space travel that they can access there under the Temple Mount. And it's funneled through the religious Templar systems of the Islamic and Muslim systems. And they activate it and power that by the humming of these masculine bodies that are going down in there and activating these sphere ships where they can interport into these places. No, so this is really interesting. This is really, I really want to study more on this location in Ukraine that you're talking about. If you have any information for me or anything that I can share with everyone watching today, any links, anything we can watch or read about this, that would be fantastic. But yeah, so this is going to conclude our show today with Gene Decode. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you being on the channel. It was so amazing to get to talk to you. I feel like you are definitely a missing puzzle piece to my research. And I look forward to having you come on in the future. I hope that that's something that you'd be open to.
Sure, absolutely. It's fascinating. It takes me down a different pathway of information that I don't normally get down, that, I don't normally get asked questions. And it, of course, as I did yesterday with Carrie Cassidy on Patriot Underground, everything's tied together. So every single topic you go in, whether it's Tucker Carlson being released or the upcoming elections or Ukraine or the pandemic, or the Green New Deal garbage, all of this is interconnected. It's an interconnected web that they're weaving, trying to enslave humanity like they did the Anunnaki. And the crystal grids and all of this, and the grids and the ley lines and all of this, and getting that back. All is interconnected to getting everything back to the way it was, for human beings to be back to what they originally were, which were beyond human. We had 64 genetic strands in 4 balls of 12 interconnected with 32 carriers, 64 amino acids, and 32 pairs within the 64 strands. And so they keep attacking us on and on till here on Earth, we're in our last bastion. But now, as Carrie had said yesterday, the human race, we're going from 3D to 4D, 5D, and even beyond, outside their reach, would be, you cannot go negative ascension beyond 5D, because it's the nature of the chakra system, where essentially the crystal centers of organic fiber optic systems within your bodies called chakras, which you have 7 primary ones. To get those energized and lit up, they can't do the heart chakra and the crown chakra, because that'll make them compassionate and connected to God. So they can only do 5. So they can only go to 5th density. And so there's ascension to 5th density negative. There's no 6th density negative. Many people have said there is, but it's not correct. And so what human race is getting ready to do is energize their crystalline system within their body of their 3rd circulatory system, where we're created in the image of God, or a trinity. So we have 3 circulatory systems: cardiovascular, the lymphatic, and then you have the fiber optic system known as Bongshan channels now, or the acupuncture meridians and channels. And so those connect to the chakras, which are nothing but balls of those organic fiber optic systems that conduct ultraviolet energy. It's why they want you to slather yourself with creams that keep ultraviolet light from going into your body, and take all kinds of fluorides to calcify your pineal so that you cannot get that ultraviolet light into your 3rd eye. Again, a trinity. And so all of this is interconnected, and all of the human is to be roaming the earth, or as per the way we originally were. Maybe the only term you could use is Urantian, of a being that is literally the Word of God and the light of the Holy Spirit, in a part of that crystalline structure of the light of the Holy Spirit, a living light crystalline structure of light. So, you know, if you give me share screen really quick, I can share a few quick things I pulled up here that go into this. So I've got a few things on Birkeland current, the Cleopatra needle.
Okay, yeah, I just made you the host, so see if you can share.
Okay, yeah. So this is where the ley lines are actually centered, is Bourges-Lorraine, France, and not in Greenwich, which is just outside London. So it shifts the ley lines so people don't know, but it's kind of easy when you make cities with their streets on the on the energy lines. So the Birkeland currents, the best view you see is right here. These are what Birkeland currents, the U4 toric counter-rotating. You know, sine waves are actually three-dimensional, as you can see here. So you have all of these different Birkeland currents. So here would be a planetary system where you have the cones coming out, and then you have the rods coming out of the equators or the accretion disk. So in a solar system or a galaxy, it might look like this in a galaxy. Quite frequently, that's what you see. In the Birkeland currents in space will look like this. And those even timelines flowing through space will look like that. You even have lines of time that flow through space that look like this. Then outside of England, in Westminster, outside of Westminster Abbey, near that area, of course, where Trump went and signed the ledger for the Virginia book and became the head of the Crown Corporation, is the Eye of Cleopatra. And then, of course, this creature looking at it. So you're again creating the frequencies of everything we've been talking about. And then that's classical music I'm listening to, never mind. And then I'll just pull up the, so people can see the free website where you can go to get information. So on my regular website, which has a page section, if you go to the bottom and you click blessforservice.org right there. This is a free website, and you can go to, you can contact us, the coordinators for the Bless for Service will answer questions, or you can go to documents and resources. And there's many different documents and resources. So you can go to books and resources, for example, and you can see a lot of like Majestic 12, different websites, the Lost Gospel of Q, the Law of War Manual. And as you click through this, you'll be able to find things like Manly P. Hall and other things. So this is just a reserve, the Protocols of Zion, the Silent Weapons for Silent Wars from the Committee of 300 by John Coleman.
Do you have any specific links for the Bakhmut? Because that seemed to be something that was coming up pretty heavily in the chat, and everyone that was watching, they were really activated by that information.
So if you go to many of the sites I follow, Alex Cristoforo constantly reports on what's going on. The Duran constantly report on what's going on in Ukraine. There are channels that go into the sacred geometry. Through the Eyes is a lady in Moscow that interviews people like Scott Ritter.
Okay.
I can't remember the one, but there's a gentleman I have that I follow here somewhere. Let's see. RizFlex has periodically a lot of really good information. She's been talked about by Q Stormrider. Of course, James Rink, Super Soldier Talk. He's really excellent into the secret space programs.
Okay.
The Gray Zone is a really good news system of really accurate. Scott Ritter, as I mentioned, he's a really good source of information on what's going on. Also, Colonel McGregor is very, very good on what's going on in Bakhmut. And then Klaus Donna is a lot of more esoteric and hidden knowledge about ancient civilizations, as is forbidden knowledge. They go into a lot there.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you.
So I follow, as you can see, Generation Z, more off. Then you have free energy stuff. The universe inside you has got some more esoteric knowledge that's very, very good. I like Church Militant. He has a lot of good things about what's going on in the Christian world and what's really going on there. Let's see, if you only knew, I'm not sure, remember what that one is. Yeah, that's got some good information too. Trying to find the word one. Hacking the Headlines. She does a lot of good stuff. I do like to get some recreation sometime. I love huskies. Cayuse the stunt dog. Educate.
Yeah, you gotta have the humor and the comedy.
Yeah, Educate Yourself is very excellent part on the fluoride deception, part 1, part 2, and part 3. If you don't understand what the fluoride is about, that's where to go. This and on what really happened on 911. They show the buildings being hit by no plane, just being exploded. But somewhere in there, in all of this, you can just click on these. People can see what I follow. They can click one of these. There's a guy that goes into all the various cities and shows you the street layout and does the sacred geometry and all of that, and the unsacred geometry that is for all of the various different Masonic layouts. Might be Matthews.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Let me
That's
check.
gonna
It
be
might
really
be
helpful.
Matthew. There it is. I found it.
I brought a lot of my attention on the Masonic templing in terms of Canberra, Australia. I feel like I keep getting guided back to that spot when it comes to that.
Matthew's author. Yeah, you want to go to Matthew's author. So his website on YouTube is going into the Masonic, different things of all kinds of layouts of how it looks in the layouts of the different cities all over the world. So this is Washington, D.C. He does Paris. He does many, many cities all over the world. So this one right here is specifically on D.C. I'll throw
In
the
Detroit.
URL.
Okay. Yeah.
Connecting it to Detroit and all over the world. So he has.
Yeah, there's a lot of Baphomet temples there.
Yeah. So there's DC. I'm sorry, that was Detroit. Here's DC.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. He's really got that mapped out.
Yeah. He really does it well.
Yeah. That's good. That's amazing.
He has the Tau cross, all of it laid out, every single detail here. And the pentagram on the Pentagon and the pentagram within the pentagram. But I mean, he just goes on and on and on. So
yeah. Wow. That's really good.
Yeah, so there you go. So I'm glad I could find it for you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is amazing information. So many awesome resources for us to tune into. I really appreciate that so much. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. I mean, this has been, like I said, I feel like you're a missing part of my puzzle.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, that's what we're here to do, is put the puzzle back together to see the truth and get out the parts of the puzzle that weren't supposed to fit with black goo garbage all over them. Wash that away.
Yes.
Throw that down into a volcano.
Well, we're all on the same team here. We're all in the Guardian Rescue Restoration team. So we're all trying to, heal all of the degradational aspects that we're all up against here. So yeah, your information is so important. It's so imperative. It's so amazing. It's so insightful. And just really thank you for coming on the show. It was such a treat for, I think, me and my subscribers. And I would love to have you back on the show. And thank you so much for being here. Do you have any last things you'd like to say to everyone watching today?
Just, I have people that are feeling that they are not equipped and they're losing hope and that they don't know what to do. That, like you have your own website, your own YouTube, all of that. I have a couple of websites and doing all this, and they feel dwarfed or that they don't measure up. God created each person with individual gifts. And it's like my garden that's out in my front yard. I just pulled all the dead leaves and the old coneflower heads off and all of that, threw it in the trash, and harvested what seed you need. And then and we had a snowstorm, and lilies started coming up through the snow. They're the first flowers that are come up. I have snow lilies that come up in the early spring. So, and then tulips are coming up too. So, and snowflowers are coming up. So not every flower blooms at the same time. I have some that bloom in the late fall. It's summer. Each person is to bloom and come. That's why they cannot keep track of what's coming on earth, because God created each of us to bloom at different times with different gifts and different abilities to do work at that time, that everything's in God's time. Don't worry about human time, mankind time. Definitely don't worry about that garbage. That's the bloodlines of Cain. That has nothing to do with this anymore. Let go of the old. Go to what time cycles, like you and I are night people, go to the time cycle that works with you. Go to your gifting, and just in the meantime, if it's not turned on, what brings you joy when you were young, and what is the things that you feel you were good at, that you enjoy doing? Well, even if it's creating a mud pie, that may come out to be something of incredible value. We have no idea, because most people have no memory of any past lives at all.
Right.
The people are starting to wake up to it now, because we are in the end time. And that knowledge of reincarnation and all of that, and the soul traps and all of that stuff is coming out. I'm getting the decodes up on the Gene Decode website. The reincarnation decode will be up soon. We're in the process of editing and getting the soul trap decode up. But in the meantime, until your memories come back, and for people to remember 18 trillion years ago to Urantia, and know how God created humanity and what we were to be, and how the universe was to originally be, to get that back to the original holy structure of all of creation is what we're here to do. We're all guardians. We're all custodians. We don't have dominion over anything but yourself. Trust in God, the source, creator, whatever you want to call it, of all things. And like Tucker Carlson said, pray 10 minutes a day. Just pray and envision the world in a way that is in the highest service to all life everywhere, where people become kind, considerate, and respectful. Forgive yourself and forgive others, and do the best you can do. And like Tucker said, each day, tell the people that you love them, because you may not get that moment again as a corporeal being in the corporeal envelope you're in now to say it. You could be whisked from earth at any moment. So know that's there, and give thanks for what you have each day over each meal and each morning and each evening, and do your prayer, and know that God has you here for a reason. You weren't just here accidentally. You volunteered to come here to be the guardians and to be the custodians, to recreate the earth into 5D and beyond. And we're in the time of the ascension of the Great Awakening. The time is coming, and it's a bell curve. It's coming faster and faster and faster. 30 years ago, when I woke up, I talked to people about this stuff. They'd roll their eyes. I couldn't even get 2 minutes in. They'd roll their eyes and walk away. You're a loony. You're totally whacked out of your head. My cousin actually told me he was just short of calling people to put me in a wagon in a straitjacket, because I was insane. And then later he contacted me, and he wanted to know everything. And he had a PhD from Princeton, and he became the head of the ozone project for the United States. And then when he found all of that was garbage, he wanted to know. He was intelligent enough to see through it. And so he finally wanted to come back and get all of this information, and sacred geometry and Vedic math and Vedic geometry, the real systems of how it originally, going back to the Vedas and some of the original holy books that are in the books from the Indus Valley that some of the Indian people know, with Vermana and all these craft in them and all this high civilization during that time as well. So, most of the books of the Bible are gone, but we have a few left, and that's enough. And even if you don't resonate with the Bible, just come to God in your way. Get out in nature and open your senses in your mind and awareness to nature and animals, and tell the people in your life you love them, and give thanks and prayer. And that's it. And know that you're blessed by God to be here. You chose to be here. It's not an accident. And each one of us are special. We're each unique and very, very special. So thank you, and God bless to each and everyone. And thank you, Indigo, for having me on your beautiful platform in this beautiful interview. It was wonderful. Thank you. God bless.
Well, thank you so much. That was amazing what you just said. I felt it on so many dimensions and really absorbed it all. So really your words were very powerful, and I really appreciate everything that you brought to the show today. So yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone watching. Put a big like on this video, share this out, you guys. It was a great show and a lot of information, lots of intel came through. So again, I look forward to seeing you in the future, Jean, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you everyone for watching, and namaste.